Я в Positive Technologies работаю управляющим директором. Мои друзья, коллеги сегодня — это Григорий Атрепьев. Сначала начнем с Евгения. Евгений Россинский, Иви. Да. Григорий Атрепьев, Yandex Cloud. Евгений Рейх.
Cloud.
Вот там у него
Евгений Рейх.
Но он недавно там работал, сейчас работает в МТС.
Евгений Россинский.
Тотмаков.
He works for MTS now. Alexei Totmаков, VK. And Alexey Андреев, Positive Technologies Managing Director. So what we wanted to talk to you about. Positive is very active to become international, to make qualitative steps forward. We work with LLMs. Clouds are already a trend and so on, but you need to improve the engineering culture as well. And mostly we talk about how to do this offline in small get-togethers. We try certain things, some things fly, some things not. And we decided to make this conversation public a little bit because we want this discussion to involve as many people as possible, because I think we, with our panelists, have been in this conversation several times in the past months, so we are kind of a closed community. I'd like to start with getting everyone introduce themselves, or what you do in your companies, someone on the product, someone on the side of technology. So I want the audience to understand where we stand. So what do I do, or what do I do in my company? I mean, people need to know where you stand. I've been doing this and then that, and now I'm fed up with this. Well, I'm CTO. I've been CTO for more than 10 years. I know about CDNs, high-load systems, machine learning, computer vision. And I also teach in Bauman University. So I'm on the engineering part, I think. I'm Grigorий Atrepьев, and I'm responsible for the product at Yandex Cloud. I was wearing an engineering hat before I became a product guy. We already have more than 60 services within our public cloud, so I have to deal with infrastructure, high-load systems, networks, storage, ML, and security. So I think I know something about public clouds, let's put it this way. Like Dennis said, I used to work for Avito. Now I'm at MTS. With Avito, I was a merchandise guy, starting from toasters and ending with dogs. Now I work billing, charging, everything else inside MTS. So I think I'm on the technical side more than on the business side. I write code regularly. I don't know about you guys, but I write code pretty much, and I'm interested in developing management track. So I will be talking like a technical manager.
Меня зовут Алексей.
I'm Alexei.
15 лет до этого я работал в конкурирующей организации.
I've been in a competitive organization. I mean, competitive against who? With you. Can you name organizations?
В лаборатории Касперского я работал.
Yes, I worked for Kaspersky Labs for 15 years. First developer, then I was manager, and then I was a part of B2B products. I've been with VK Tech for more than a year. So what is VK? Everyone knows. Vkontakte, Odnoklassniki, and mail.ru. But we also do some products for enterprise, for you. I hope you use our products. Telecommunications, messenger, corporate mail, cloud products, finance, HR, things like that. VK Tech wants to become Microsoft, Oracle, and SAP, first in Russia and then beyond. So I'm a CTO of VK Tech. I think I write code on Python once a year, not for production. I'm more actually creating comfortable solutions and conditions for developers, building teams, and so on and so forth. I'm Alexei Andreev. Together with Dennis, we are responsible for R&D. So Dennis is responsible for application security. I'm responsible for the techniques to detect hackers and stop hackers. I've been with Positive for more than 10 years. I actually don't remember very much what was before that. My culture, my spirit is engineering. I like people, clever people. I'm amused by not very clever people. So I started as a developer, drivers, Linux kernel, and so on. I went to middle level, then senior level, and kind of made it to top management. I've been interested in building strong teams, creating the right environment, creating the right focus for a strong team. I do understand something about market caps, investments, and things like that, but these things are inevitable for a top manager. Okay. I will not tell people about how you and our CFO did our management accounts. And okay. We are in a different world. We are moving to other markets. We are trying to conquer hearts and minds in different markets to which we never went before. There is no Gartner there. And it's important to think about those markets. What do you think? The products that you create, how do they stand out from the crowd on the global market? Are there any local things? Is there any brand magic about your products? Well, unfortunately, we don't open source anything so far. But talking to a lot of people from the community, I see that the engineering culture, the Tarantula, for example, ClickHouse came out of Yandex. So the engineering culture is very good in this country. So our engineering solutions are very classy. They are very, very competitive. And I think some solutions are very good, not only yours. I'm responsible for the B2C market, and your product covers a very specific client audience. You want to use all the trends, and you don't want to be locked with the vendor, because if there are any risks, if there are any sanctions, and so on, you don't want to lose an important part of your information system. And this is why the Russian market has actually been moving toward open source, and a lot of people actively contribute, and we do too. We contribute parts of Docker, we contribute a lot of different code. Well, Yandex, I think, has a super strategy to conquer the world that's expected of Yandex. Well, you're hyperinflating the expectations. I'm not going to give you a super strategy to conquer the world. Now, competitive advantages. I think I will echo what Evgeny said about the engineering culture. And open source is a great opportunity to look and compare what our companies do and what large Western majors do and what everybody else does. The second thing, and we have seen that already, even though large companies really lead in technology, their UX kind of sucks. User-friendliness, simplicity, and so on. And we can do much better. Of course, I understand the features of our services, but I mean, if you take AWS, you can break your leg, you can break your head just trying to do something very, very simple. Hundreds of services, 5 and 7 are interchangeable. You don't know how to find them in the console, so their console is shit. I will kind of support everyone. Are we going to have any conflict? Are we going to have any challenges, any argument? Everybody supports everyone. Yeah. Do you know why I said what I said, okay? Well, actually, I did have a rich experience working abroad. I lived in Dubai for 7 years, and I can tell you that Russia has a visible, classy engineering culture. So people write in cycles, write code in cycles, and we can use that to try to get to foreign markets. On technology, I mean, Russian UX solutions are super classy. I mean, if you take Gosuslugi, the government services portal, compared to what you see abroad, it's kind of a wow effect. You don't have to go to the bank to get a statement from the bank, right? So a lot of people abroad just don't believe that it's possible. So within the country, we have a great culture, building a stack of services. And I think it pertains to our clouds, it pertains to our internal services, platforms, and I do hope that open source solutions, more open source solutions will emerge. Because I don't know whether you've seen it, but I have not seen a classy internal corporate chat, but I think this will kind of trickle down a bit, this great UX culture. Okay, let's start the argument then. My personal task, it is not our business strategy, please don't misinterpret me, but I think the technology of VK Tech, our products, should go to the foreign markets. Unfortunately, we are a Russian, Kazakhstan, and former Soviet Union company, but we need to go into the far abroad. And this is my personal challenge. Now, how do we do that? Tarantula is a great technology. Maybe someone used it, maybe someone heard about it. It's a great technology, but it's not great everywhere. You can't just put it on the table and say, yes, Tarantula, that is beautiful. No, you have to find the right place where it will work, where it will show you the great power of, show you of what Russian engineers are capable of. So it is a very, very important task. So you have the technology. It's a different task to find the right customer and to find the right application, the right use case for your technology. It is not easy. If you look at SAP and others who are pretty good at doing that, they have a lot of expertise finding the right place and looking for the right place for your technology to work, to demonstrate its prowess. It's not just, you don't put it on the table, you don't put it on the shelf, you inject it into some part of client's business, and then the customer will be happy. And of course, we are price competitive. Our solutions are much less expensive. For some countries, for some customers, it is very important. And the third distinction is between on-premise versus SaaS. Some customers have data that users are just not ready to let out of their perimeter. This country, Latin America, Africa, and so on. And we have an advantage here because top foreign solutions like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, they only offer SaaS. We understand why they have this business model, but they don't have anything on-prem. And kind of here we come and we say, colleagues, everything will be within your perimeter. Your perimeter will be protected through NGFW. Yeah, thanks. And the rest will be absolutely secure. So, not absolutely secure, but pretty secure. These are the three advantages which our company will try to exploit if we want to be successful in international markets. I think maybe not North America, but everything else should be ours.
Засчитано.
But it is much harder to update on-prem solutions, like, right? Let's talk about on-prem versus cloud in the next question, okay? I know that Dennis wants to talk on this. Okay, so my general vision is this. Of course, I'll be guided in this by my experience. Before Positive, I worked for Acronis. We were the innovator in backup and Sparwell's, the very, very cool guys who came up with container virtualization. They did not do a very good thing with mainline, so strategically they were wrong, but technically they were brilliant. And when I look at what we do well, we really do well something science-specific. When there is a challenge to disrupt. So we need to do Mac virtualization better than VMware. And then we drink champagne. But then it's stuck and kind of VMware opens up champagne. Acronis actually had the same ambition, and Positive has the same ambition. So Positive says we need to overtake CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is a giant in the cybersec business. And when we do this, when we breathe this, when we live this, so for example, we want to make an autopilot, replacing a human being. Right? And actually, this is something that unites you. We want to make a giant equal to CrowdStrike. So this is our spirit, and I think this is part of our culture. We want to overcome, we want to challenge. This is why we were first in space, because this is cool. We are the first. But this is where we are good. On manufacturing, we are not very good. When there is no challenge, when you have to organize a high-quality process. This is the Germans. We are, I think, historically bored to do anything without a challenge. This is why we don't have mass-market products which are good. Lately, we've seen such technology emerging because some markets appeared out of nowhere 2 years ago. But this is not our strongest point. So there are certain things which we do naturally well, disrupting and challenging. And there are certain things where we lose interest and just products don't fly. That's what we need to look at. So, on the one hand, we have the engineering culture. On the other hand, the UX, it's about creativity, and we are strong there. And the third story is customized things that make us stand out of the crowd. That's good.
Мы прям какие-то супер-супер крутые, но получается, что очень конкурентная борьба в этом мире, да, то есть очень сложно.
So the world is competitive. initiative, and it is very important, therefore, to clearly understand what we do well and what we don't do so well. I can make examples of specific products, but of course, it is much harder to speak generally. There are quite a few cloud products, Russian clouds, non-Russian clouds, but what does it mean from the engineering point of view? We have a lot of products that are historically on-prem. Everybody wanted to be on-prem. And engineering-wise, you really have a challenge for everything to be very flexible, and you want to deploy in the cloud, and you want to test everything in the cloud, and so on. People like Sber, for example. Can you really talk to us about engineering rather than products? We will jump from engineering to products and back. Well, first of all, Ozon and Sber have clouds of their own. They release their products into their own cloud, so it's on-prem to them. So you have to look at the money and follow the money. If you understand that the information that you can expose is not very critical and you can get high-quality business result quickly, you will buy a SaaS service, you will buy a cloud, and so on. But if your data is too important, Evgeny can't outsource anything because it's about payments. And with his volume, if something goes wrong, there would be such a big loss that, of course, he would not do that. So if you want something quick, you will go to Yandex Cloud, to VK Cloud, to Amazon, or whatever. You deploy an MVP, you check your hypothesis, but if it grows into a serious and solid business, some of these parts you migrate back into your own cloud. Netflix, for example, back in 2012, we don't want to pay money to DevOps, we will go to Amazon. After 6 years, they said, oh, Amazon is so expensive and they are not very quick to introduce the changes that we want. And so we migrate back. As a result, they have a very heterogeneous system, half here, half there. Don't look here, and we don't have documentation here, and so on and so forth. And a lot of businesses end up like this. Of course, secure data, everyone wants to have it on-prem. But I also love having everything on-prem because it's really easier to be responsible for it, to be accountable for this. So you sleep well. But if you have a third-party service with availability, with another SLA, so well, when they sign your SLA, and then you don't get your service within an hour, they just shake their head and say, okay, shit happens, right? It's 4 nines, right? 4 nines, like in Amazon, it is 1 hour per year. And what if this is the most important hour? So these are the pluses of an on-prem solution. And of course, a good CTO is always finding the right balancing act between being quick, between being cost-effective, and between being reliable. Grigorий, I don't think you've been making on-prem clouds. No? And if not, can you say why? Was it a conscious decision or was it just a circumstance? Well, it was a conscious decision. Our philosophy is the following. There are certain technologies, ClickHouse, Wait Thesaurus, and some others. So this is just a couple examples. And we want this technology to be available as part of a cloud service, which a customer can deploy themselves and support within their own infrastructure, including operating all those factors that Evgeny brought up.
правильно и максимально удобно
So we focused on making sure that such a technology could translate into a service, into a cloud service. But going back to open source, in the past years, we contributed several of our basic fundamental technologies to open source, so they are available not just as a service. And very frankly, I decided I would answer your initial question differently, not as a user, but as someone who has to deal with support of a product which has to be shipped to the cloud, to the customer perimeter, and so on. It is a very difficult engineering task. And by focusing on the public cloud model, we kind of circumvented it. Because open source gives us opportunities beyond the public cloud, but without the complexity of how to package this, how to provide reliability within a perimeter which is not yours, which may be governed by a different technical and product model. I would actually think about where the company stands from the point of view of its maturity. You can start quickly in the cloud, and checking hypothesis quickly is a good thing, but at some point you feel uncomfortable. The cloud is too big for you to customize, and you have to move back. Going back to on-prem versus cloud, well, several guys moved away from on-prem because it is very difficult to dynamically deploy features. For example, Bittrex takes 2 years to deploy the features to all customers because some admins just don't know that the feature is there. So I think it's good to have on-prem if you already have a product, when you understand kind of the boundaries. But I don't think it's absolutely unrealistic to deploy your product on-prem when your product is really in the development stage and in the modification stage. You just can't have both.
15 тысячам, да, студий, которые пишут на PHP что-то новое, и уязвимость.
I think Bittrex was a great story. They have 15,000 studios writing on PHP, and even the regulator says how to make sure that they all update PHP at the same time. So it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you have just a website, and that's it. On the other hand, you can do a lot of things with the website. Okay, coming back to what Grigorий said. So your product should be installation agnostic. Do you think it's a challenge? Yes, it is a challenge. In my head, you have to make this choice only when you have a good product that kind of sells itself. When you add features all the time, I don't think definitely that you should go into on-prem, because this will be a barrier to your business development. You can do that. I mean, you should do that if your product is stable, if your business value is clear to the user, and until you have made at least 70 to 80% of that product, it's not a good business idea. It's not good business sense to go into on-prem. We are all big companies, you know? A lot of our companies have their on-prem, they have their own platforms. But a lot of our listeners, for example, are people who try to start up. And if they have a choice between on-prem and the cloud, I would recommend cloud for them. I mean, your scale determines your market. If your market is large companies, you will have to do something on-prem for them. But if you analyze and if you see that the mid segment has more money, and actually they have such a mess and such motley collections that even any kind of automation would be like a panacea, like a paradise for them. So for small and for mid guys, cloud is better. And I think cloud, well, I don't know actually. Do you know how much a cloud costs today? Yeah, okay. This is why we actually started this discussion, because we have two cloud representatives here. Well, the idea behind my question was, okay, you wanted to do some cloud and you say, okay, I want on-prem, but you can't roll back to on-prem because everything is nailed to cloud technology. So my answer is no.
Я сказал нет.
Okay.
Нет, я намного здесь комментариев скажу нет сразу. У тебя никогда...
My answer is no to a lot of comments. You never have a stable product. Any IT product has a backlog a kilometer long, so I don't think you will ever have a product that will go into on-prem ready like this. Of course, driving a product both in the cloud and in on-prem is additional cost. The only thing you can do is not double the cost. Business sees some money and he says, I want service here through the cloud, SMB, and we want to go to enterprise as well, but we don't want a double price for that. We want to create a disruptive technology, and we will get 3 teams together rather than 2 teams, but each of the team will be a small one. Okay. Our products are driven both in the cloud and on-prem. And it is a problem that there are a lot of versions sloshing around in the field. Some of them are with vulnerabilities, some of them are with old bugs. And if you are a large enterprise customer, for them, you don't just issue new releases once every quarter. You can't tell them, oh, I'm supporting the 2 previous releases, and some of your customers will ask you for long-term support, at least 5 years, and you have signed up for 5 years, and you will need to organize the process in such a way. In such a way to minimize the number of versions you support in the field. This can be done in different ways. Organizational ways, sales, maybe giving something away for free, additional support, expanded support, and so on. But technologically, you also have to enable all this. The cloud is always on your fingertips. You start up a virtual machine and you can start debugging on prod. But on-prem is a closed perimeter. No one will let you in. No one will let you in physically, I mean, not even virtually. So you can't see. And therefore, you need to think about the customer's telemetry. They collect telemetry within their own perimeter. They look at it. You have a channel between the customer's admin and you, and the admin sends you the data. You say you should correct this config or that config, and so on. So this is a long story of relationship. Human relationship rather than corporate relationship. Maybe this brings the customer close to you. When people go into the cloud, they want to always move back. Of course, if they are not stuck with some proprietary database. But on-prem, a normal customer, if you treat that customer okay, you get additional cash flow. What about people saying that love can only live for 3 years? Well, love may live for 3 years, but refactoring lives for 5 years, especially if they have signed up for long-term support. All my life, whether I want it or not, has been related to on-premise. And the biggest challenge for on-premise companies is to really have good marketing. So people say that cloud, SaaS, they have great marketing. But I disagree. The biggest driver for customers to actually use your updates is your marketing function. The better you explain to your customers why they need to migrate to a new version, right? The more important it is. Otherwise, people say, okay, I don't want to upgrade because this works, it's reliable, I'm afraid of changes. And after some years, no one even remembers how it did work, right? And so in my experience, you need to go, you need to market this, and if you don't do this, it's going to end up badly for you. We are a vendor which is cloud adaptive, but of course we are natively on-premise. We have some protection technologies on Yandex Cloud. We have some standalone resources outside of the cloud. And at the same time, we create products for ourselves on the basis of third-party technologies. We, for example, are building a big data lake for our internal purposes. We experiment a lot, we debug a lot of ML-based algorithms, and we go to public clouds, we try and roll back, we try and roll back. It is true that a backlog is always there, but until your product has a spine, right, you don't have this cutoff. You want to be on the cloud. But when you have passed this cutoff, you have to answer a question for yourself, whether you want to stay in the cloud or whether you want to go back. A lot of my friends from international companies like Lame Technologies, right, they still want to be on AWS. For a long time, they kept their R&D in Moscow. They departed. They are hosted by Amazon, and they pay tens of millions of dollars. And I say, are you okay? Well, we are so profitable. We're a super profitable company, and so we just don't look at this. So the company economics is very important in actually driving clouds or driving on-premise. We try to actually check the new things on public clouds. If this idea kind of solidifies around something, we try to move it back to on-prem. It's an interesting idea that marketing is important. People called me a marketing guy recently, and I was really offended about that. I remember when I worked for Skype. Skype had great encryption, very non-trivial encryption. And at some point, the algorithm ceased to work, and actually the people who who actually knew how this algorithm worked, they were not in the company, they were not in the country, they were looking them for a couple of days, but then the algorithm started to work all by itself, and everyone was, how? There's a topic a lot of people are talking about, is platformization. You start always writing code, you always convert it into an ACD, and then, so an operating system, you create your own operating system. Well, when you're a child, you want to write a game, okay? I've not been playing games after 5 or 6 games that I wrote myself, because there is no magic for me, right? There is no magic. I can't play those video games. I make too much of those myself. So, platforms. Does anyone want platforms? If yes, how to do it? If no, how not to do it? Well, the general trend toward automation is quite logical, and everyone wants features to go 15 minutes and prod, 15 minutes and prod. Of course, if you want to ensure that, you need standards, you need templates, you need coding rules, and so on. And I think only lazy people don't make their own development platforms. And they have advantages, of course. But actually, some platforms are so expensive to build that you will never make as much money using the platform. And if it will take you several years to build a platform, maybe you should look at open source platforms. In Russia alone, I know about a dozen companies who created their own development platforms, and they could actually have tried open source platforms. Telemetry, logging, access levels for developers, and SaaS, and all the other interesting things already built in. It's sort of, hygiene or fashion, over-engineering, even when you don't need a platform. But Avito has been talking about the platform that they have built. Ozon says we have a platform. Yandex, writes everything for themselves. They create their own software development platform. And all companies, after a certain size, they say, we have a platform for code development. But the point is, a new developer comes to me from Yandex, and algorithmically he is okay, but he has to relearn all the time. And then he goes to Ozon, and he has to learn from scratch, and then he goes to Avito, and he has to learn from scratch, and so on. So I think we became hostages to this fashion of having everything in-house. We are not such a big market to justify this huge number of technological platforms. Maybe we should all come together and make a joint investment in creating a joint development standard. I think this will make life easier for everyone.
Кстати, на самом деле это прям очень такая сильная мысль. Сколько где не работал,
That's a great idea.
Там на плюсах код, который зовет хранилище.
I remember Skype.
И все, что ты делаешь, ты пишешь хранилище Postgres. Потом ты оттуда...
You actually write everything in Postgres, and if you exit Skype, actually you find out that no one actually uses it anymore, and it is really hard to unlearn. So, what will Yandex say? Platforms are an interesting topic for a conversation. Large companies have created their own platforms, and all those challenges that Evgeny has talked about, all those challenges are there. But I don't think functionally these platforms are very different. Everyone has reinvented their own wheel. Some people just did that because they could. Some people did that because of the circumstances. Some people, it was not a conscious decision. And if you look into how much resources and people have been invested in inventing those wheels, and what could have been done if they could just sit together and agree on how to reuse it, and it is an interesting conversation how to reuse it, I think it would be a very, very big number we will be looking at.
Очень часто от платформы ожидается какого-то эффекта серебряной пули.
Very often people say that their platform is their silver bullet. So we have created a platform and the release cycle will be short, time to market for business will be short, and we will be in paradise, we will be in a brave new world.
Нигде так не работает, в том числе.
But it doesn't work.
Мало сделать замечательную платформу.
Because it's one thing to create a good platform. As a developer, you think that your platform is great, it's normal, but it's also important to teach people, going back to Evgeny, to teach people how to use it. You need to sell it to them, right? You need to sell the idea to them. You need to explain to them the advantages. You need to say how to use it and how not to use it, where are the boundaries, how not to shoot yourself in the foot, and so on. Yandex Cloud is a huge platform with a lot of external users, big and small. So to us, education is one of the key factors that makes us a successful business. Because if you don't invest enough in education, there's not going to be any brave new world for you, not now, not in several years.
Недавно конференция, на которой многие из нас были. Там был парень из Гугла.
In CTODS, there was a conference, there was a guy from Google. Well, we thought why, he was very gloomy. He says, and Google is a great company and so on and so forth, but do you write code? Says, I write configs. I mean, everything is written already. Investigation some takes time, and it turns out that you only need to correct one line in a config. So people come to Google, and they actually, in half a year, they want to change the lines, and actually they don't write in lines, they write in characters, and they hire and fire people all the time. One of our guys went to work for Google for several years, then he went back to Yandex. He was writing a service for customer authentication, and he had to integrate with logging services. When we sat and talked about this, he said, after 1 year, he said, I know 9 logging services in 9 different platforms in Google, and I know that I don't know everything. Even in a large technological company, some things may be so hugely decentralized that they haven't just reinvented a wheel, they reinvented several different wheels for the same thing. When we talk about a platform, do you mean a technology stack, components, or ecosystem of services? Because it looks like we're talking about different things. No, I'm not going to correct my answer because different people will actually answer it in different ways. Because for this company, a platform is this, to that company, the platform is that. So if you want to broaden the picture that we are drawing, welcome.
Давай ее. У меня как раз вот просто я слушал предыдущих ребят, у меня платформа вообще с этим не ассоциируется.
To me, a platform is absolutely different. What the guys have been saying, it's not just a platform, it's just a foundation. I'm not even looking at it. It's just there. Something that provides the cloud to me. To me, a platform is a product. I have billing. And how do I make sure that my withdrawals are regular? And I want a regular withdrawal to switch on when some payment has failed. Or I want to introduce some new feature, and I don't want engineers. I don't want them to I don't want to have engineers sitting and if, then, and so on and so forth. Give me an admin account, composite services, nice UX, and so on. but I don't want anyone to reprogram, the launch of a new page. I think we don't need engineers for that. To me, a platform is a product. And it should be managed by non-technical people. When, the movies with the right ratings would move to the front page and so on. So this, I think, is what a platform to me. A platform is a functionality for non-technical people. I want to launch a new product, and I know that it should be marketed in 200 places, and I need to sell it. I need to raise a billing service, and I want some bundles with it, and I need to advertise it, and so on and so forth. And all this will be obstacles to time to market. And from my product standpoint, a platform should... No, we're talking about development platform. Well, to me, I understand what you're talking about, but to me, a platform is an opportunity for non-technical people to launch new products faster. What you've been talking about is, of course, the foundation that the non-technical people don't see. But to me, a platform is a story where I can do any new product without wasting my time to go back to engineers. If I know how it does been works, I can take this functionality and I will add it to my product. That's it.
Мы только что говорили про ноу-код программирование. Вот это оно.
Ну, да, это в какой-то степени, но еще раз.
Well, to a certain extent, it's not just zero coding or no coding. But I think, to me, what's important about the platform is whether it enables new products.
Где он там в Яндексе поработал и теперь бесполезен, я сразу вспомнил времена.
So when you talked about people who worked for Yandex and now they're useless,
какой-то стандартной библиотеки, или там как это называлось.
I remember those old times before SQL, when all companies lived with different standard libraries. Of course, in Plus, there was Boost later on and standard libraries and so on. So I hope no one actually is writing with your own customized C++ libraries.
Шаблонами компилится пипец, как долго.
Но тем не менее, надеюсь, что теперь вы их пишете меньше и при переходе.
Well, maybe you are doing less of that, and well, we actually don't let people go from one company to another. That's it. Well, talking about platforms. To me, a platform should drive down development costs.
Продукты ВК-теха. У них у всех, не то что у всех одна и та же функциональность, просто завернута.
VK-Tech products are not kind of the same technology wrapped in a different way, but there are some end-to-end scenarios. For example, customer user authentication. This is a component which every product needs. There are certain templates that we use on-prem only. And the stack of these components or methodologies, this is what to me is a platform on which you click together a product, defect-free, and it makes it possible for business functionality to appear faster because you already have everything fundamentally. Yes, exactly, because you said about user authentication. But for example, you need some settings to it. For example, if there is no customer verification, this infrastructure is off limits, and when you have two-factor authentication, it's glued to all products at the same time, right? So if a certain product says you can authenticate without a two-factor, that's okay. But otherwise, now you see. Finally, you got a challenge.
Про Google говорили. Вот у нас было время.
So we've talked about Google. There was a time when there were 8 correlators. Eight correlators. There was one objective. everybody wanted to make the thread matching faster and easier.
Да, есть какая-то победившая
In
технология.
Yandex, we have one technology has won, but there was a time when you had more than one. Yes, yes, we had three in the past.
Я противоречиво вообще отношусь к платформам, объясню почему. То есть я за в целом. Идея очень правильная.
On the whole, I think platforms are a good idea. Rapid development and so on, but I'm not 100% in favor of
В
it.
этом смысле там споров
You
нет.
kind of reuse whatever has been done before, and it looks like a right idea, but
Тонкая грань, чтобы сделать
there is a very, very thin balancing act to make a platform in such a way that people love it. Not because their company says this is our platform, but because people love it.
делается с хай-теком.
And this is especially relevant when you see
Сегодня никто не обсуждает, какая платформа оркестрации стандарт. Но если мы не делаем,
when you see what's happening in the world. For example, no one
не было
discusses which orchestration is the global standard. Kubernetes. ClickHouse, I understand. This is a long story, but
там тех же докеров не было, а сегодня LLM-ки жгут. Генеративные сети, все что-то борют.
at first, Dockers were the biggest thing. LLMs, they kind of burn. This is a holy war against those LLMs and neural networks and so on. So
Кайфово ехать, и команда едет.
creating an ecosystem which the team would love
Прогресс, который рядом произошел, который сделал
I mean,
тебя уже отставшим.
could
Просто потому, что
actually
технология,
end you up in a situation in which
едет
the
технология,
overall
которая устарела,
progress in the outside world will mean that you are outdated,
на этом едет,
your technology is more expensive to support,
программирование поменялось.
you can't roll back because you've been there, and the paradigm of coding is different,
Я помню время, в том же
different stacks, different libraries, and so on.
были свои
You talked about SQL, yes?
эры в Акронисе и прочее. И
I remember Acronis had their own share PTRs, and we found enormous bugs there, and so on.
Людей с сишным прошлым, я не понимаю.
Я вообще считаю C++ лучшим языком, просто потому что
I think C++ is the best language of all. I don't understand all the new languages. I quite agree. But all the Go fans,
чтобы,
they will just walk out.
с одной стороны, там
But
вовремя
it is a
понять,
very
что
thin balancing act, because on the one hand, you need to understand that this entire ecosystem
я не знаю, завтра, может быть, будет промпт-инжиниринг творить чудеса, и мы
may become obsolete.
и мы такие: о, привет. У нас
Maybe we will develop code in a very different way. Maybe someone will find a cleverer way to develop code, and everybody else will be just left behind.
появляются компании, которые делают какой-то новый продукт,
And some companies
базируясь уже на
will
своих,
come
который в
with a new
open source
product.
развился. И в
They will be based on open source fresh, and they actually take your markets, they take your customers because they have better platforms, technologies, and libraries. So I think you need to know when to stop. You need to look critically at your platform. This is a cost that you always have to pay, and at some point, you need to be aware that your cost of development is much higher than that of your competitors. I think people should always be critical about loving the platform. So we love the platform, it's great, but actually at some point they need to be ready to say, hey, this is something that I found on GitHub. So people are to be ready to disrupt their own platform if their own platform turns out to be uncompetitive. Yeah, that's a great story. I think you're right.
А у меня вот есть такая метрика, я прям за ней слежу. Сколько memory-аллокаторов я выпилил из продуктов, которые у меня...
I have my own matrix.
Вот смотрю такой
Matrix.
аллокатор.
How many memory allocators I've eliminated?
Там, где он есть, ты его никогда не заметишь.
Because
Вот, и в целом, конечно, платформа это
you will never see a memory allocator if it's in the right place. If you see it, you can eliminate this. Now, code generation. I worked in Prague when I worked for Skype, and lately, the guys who are left there, they've been talking about job security. So they say, if you're a manager, you need 12 to 15 reports. If you have 9, they will merge you. If you have 18, they will optimize you. And I say, what, do they fire you? And they say, well, some code is written by neural network. So they do not have proof of that, but a lot of middles, they actually let them go if 2 years straight they have the same ratings, right? So I decided to write something with a neural network. I always had a problem with front end. I need a front ender. And actually, it turned out that a neural network writes the code for me. I talk to the neural network, and I don't need any analysts, actually. You can write a lot with ChatGPT. You are cool, and ChatGPT is cool, and it writes for you.
Ты просто охренел. Как ты можешь писать код?
If you tried AutoGPT, you would kind of go mad about how quickly you can code. I mean, the problem is you all know how to write code. You know how it should look like, and this is why it works well for you. But I teach, and if a student knows what the type of structure of data is, how algorithms should be built, they use generative LLMs to make them write code for them. But if you don't understand anything, if you're just copy-pasting code, it's not good. They never end up with good products. You are good engineers. You have written your own code. You know how it should look like. You know what a dichotomy is. You know what static is. You know a lot of things a lot of young people don't know. And having good higher education and a skill in development, GPT is a great tool for you, which helps you. However, there is no such technology which you don't need to read after. But I think it works like this even with humans.
Конечно. Машину, которая не умеет ей водить. Ну, понятно, что ты сейчас говоришь, что по факту инженеры превращаются в такого оператора чат-GPT.
So an engineer turns into a ChatGPT operator. Well, I don't think it's like Stack Overflow, in which 15 Chinese, 2 Hindus, and 2 Somalians discuss why some code always fails and why actually there is no memory allocation and so on. But it is ChatGPT, it kind of does automatically for you. Tests, of course, tests are great. ChatGPT writes great tests and table-based tests and so on, and I've saved a lot of time. And but sometimes it hallucinates. It hallucinates. The important thing is you should not hallucinate in synchrony. But it is a tool. This story about, science fiction when machines have replaced people, I don't think we are there. And if we ever end up there, it will not be tomorrow.
Теперь эти бэкэндеры мне не нужны, теперь все сам могу.
So your story, I mean, I think in a neighboring room, a front-ender says, and I don't need those back-enders anymore. Maybe in different conferences, they tell different stories about ChatGPT. TEDCon, for example. Yeah, things like that. So in a different roundtable, they may be saying that they don't need you anymore. As any tool, I think it has its own use cases and its own restrictions. Writing code is, of course, a very good case, use case for generative models, and the performance stabilizes already. People don't just stick GPT somewhere and seeing what happens. People have started to understand where GPT works and where it doesn't. I think we have covered the long journey with GPT in the last year, and we have understanding now where we want GPT and where we don't. If there is no frequency, you don't even save money on LLM. When one person can support can support a product. I can tell 3 stories about AI. I have a device, and I talk to that device through SAP. I never knew what SAP is like a Java. And I asked an LLM to write an interface for me. It wrote an interface, it didn't work. For about a week, I tried to make it work, actually, for a week, but it turned out that my device was not working according to the standard. I had to write certain sniffers into my code. So, standard things. You have the back interface, you need to rewrite the front interface. LLM can do that. But if you walk out of the standard world, it doesn't work. You need to dig, you need to drill, you need to look at it like a human, and well, you even take offense that it can't do this. Second story. Coming back to our products. Some of our products are about communication and rewriting. Summarization of communication, tell me what's important in 100 pages of communication, of chats. Customers really are willing to pay you additional money if your messenger has this feature. But some customers don't trust these models. And they say, I'm ready to pay you for the model to be on-prem. And I say, you need to buy all those NVIDIAs and servers and so on. But one customer from one bank told me a story about Samsung.
В рамках той истории инженеры Samsung пользовались, по-моему, ChatGPT.
So Samsung engineers used ChatGPT. The model was trained by their queries, and as a result, other users, I think, drew Samsung internal information. It was not Copilot, it was ChatGPT. So, and when I asked them, and what are you worried about? What can I steal from you? They say, well, no, access keys, passwords, and so on.
Эти вечные токены в коде, которые потом отлавливают где-нибудь на гитхабе.
Yeah. You actually start writing tokens in the code, and then it all ends up on GitHub and so on. I mean, this is important for on-prem versus cloud. You need to be a good engineer to use ChatGPT, but I don't have to really have the skill of reading 1,000 messages. It can summarize it for me, and it works. Yes, it works, but it is not a business. I think it is a commodity for such services, or will become a commodity pretty soon. Summarization, rephrasing, what's important and what's not. I think no one will see any added value in this, so there will be no business there. Well, depend on the product.
Вот здесь это...
mail, messengers, media conferences, video conferences. Yes.
Денис, мы говорим о чем? О том, что
What are we talking about
ML
exactly?
сегодня способен заменить программиста.
Whether ML can replace a programmer?
Да, то есть, понимаешь, у нас дискуссия вся так проходит. Мы начинаем с какого-то конкретного вопроса, он дальше
Well,
идет.
we always start with something specific, and then
На текущий момент мы обсуждаем вообще в
everybody
целом,
goes
зачем
into the
вообще
general.
все
So
эти
actually, yes,
модели,
we
модели
are
LLM,
already discussing on whether LLMs are applicable in the real world for development and
У тебя в руках лопата.
so
Действуй.
you have a shovel and you have a fan.
Дать LLM-ку
Right.
в широком смысле можно, да, то есть не только про разработку. То есть про разработку, мне кажется, достаточно много уже поговорили, и так вроде
I
понятно.
think we've talked about development. We can discuss LLMs more generally. Well, I have a different point of view,
Я думаю, что
a challenging point of view, if you will.
такие парни нетрушные ML-щики, и, конечно,
I think that we are not true ML, and of course we are looking at this topic
если
through
обломать последний
our
год,
own blinders.
и вообще в этот мир окунуться,
I've been trying to break myself for the past year,
я смотрю,
roughly, and trying to delve into this world. And why
с того, что происходит на самом деле.
I have a different point of view. Because I think we have taken all the cream of everything that was disruptive in ML. ChatGPT 4, 5, 6, I mean, 6 is not yet there, but I think we have taken all information that's available
Получили результат относительно этой информации.
in the form that is already being used by the humans. So ChatGPT has told us how humans use information.
Типовые проблемы, которые решает инженер-разработчик,
But the typical issues resolved by the human being,
их
the
можно
engineer,
структурировать.
they
Какого
can
типа
be
системы
structured,
можно строить, как они строятся, какие
what type of systems can be built, which algorithms are used, which algorithm is good for which task, which data structures are best for a specific task.
Фокус, наверное, на построение такой базы знаний и типовых паттернов.
So there is no
систем.
focus on building a knowledge base and typical factors that
Текстах, которые находят. И
really would be used for training this model deliberately.
в этом смысле
A
я
model
думаю, что
is trained on whatever it can find, and therefore it is kind of patchy in its performance.
одноблочная. Вот, грубо говоря, я говорю, мне не очень нравится чат-бот.
For example,
в том смысле, в
I
той
don't
задаче, которую мы решаем. Мне
like
всё-таки ближе история с
chatbots.
агентами,
I like
нацелены на решение
IA
типовых
agents
паттернов, да, и
a bit more because they
качество
are
решаемых задач.
targeted to specific patterns and they can control the answer that they are giving to a prompt.
Построение систем типовых.
And in this sense, I think that
машине. Так что, и она не будет
typical
ошибаться
systems
против большого архитектурного knowledge со стороны
will be
человека.
built by machines because machines just don't make mistakes.
Человеческий разум.
And in this sense, machines will work faster and more than humans.
Которые прям имеют очень
And just
простые паттерны.
simple systems,
Человека будет
very
найдено
simple
какое-то
patterns,
время на fine-tuning, когда нужно
and
из большой системы уже
the
какую-то
humans
прослойку типовую
would need to spend some time on fine-tuning to implement some typical business logic. And maybe I think we will get there in the very near future.
развития ML.
This is where I see the development of ML. I think you've been talking about development platform, yes?
Да, о чем был предыдущий спикер.
Yeah, and everybody else is left guessing. Just a short comment on this.
Тезис, что сейчас моделька учится на каких-то текстах из интернета.
You said that the model is trained by whatever it can find. Well, it is not exactly so.
Любой текущей большой LLM модели, он все-таки валидируется, верифицируется.
Any LLM is validated, verified, and actually then polished at alignment stage. We are actually perfecting Yandex GPT-3, and this is how we know this. But if we look into the future, what we see is that the nearest versions of LLMs have already imbibed all available information. whether it was marked up or not. And the next model is trained by information created by the previous model. And unfortunately, that leads to the degradation of the model. So I think we are close to the extremum. Maybe we are not yet there, but we are very close to the extremum. And I think code is just one of the examples that a model needs to be trained by unique human content. A short comment on this. And this is where the problem lies. Because restructuring of this information relative to the tasks and creating AI agents rather than generative chatbots. I mean, AI agents which would be targeted to specific engineering tasks. It's different because when you teach a person, you teach them in key technologies, base of algorithms, structures of data, and the person actually composes all this, and only then they introduce some logic into this, why this is needed. So this task can be automated. But I think it's not about GPT and LLMs.
Есть генеративные модели. Это,
so, generative models and ML are different.
По архитектуре их, может, вообще не надо решать большими языковыми
Those architectural tasks should not be solved by LLMs. Can they do that? Maybe they can do at least part of that. But why are we discussing that this is the only and the right and the righteous way to do it? Well, maybe not. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe it's inefficient, in fact. You stay there as an operator, but ML is not just about LLMs. I mean, I would not actually narrow it down. Well, the technology itself is not new. So those GPT models have been around for for decades. Chat GPT is a new story. 10 plus, but it's 10 plus. It's 10 plus.
Хорошо, не 53-й, даже не 56-й, да.
But it's not 1953. It's not 1956. So what are the features that it didn't have before?
Не так, чтобы сильно отличался от 3. Просто никто, кроме людей, которые занимаются ML, прям сильно, особенно в широком смысле, да, там.
Especially in the B2C world, no one actually saw this. Technologically, they're still the same, but.
И сидел, курил всю передачу. Они что-то там разговаривали. Там вот. Я вот сейчас себя примерно таким же чувствую.
There was this TV show when the anchor was just sitting and smoking through the whole show. Just several days ago, I sat at the round table with government officials, with academics about artificial intelligence.
В области искусственного интеллекта.
And the discussion was, why do we need 35,000 specialists in AI? Why do actually we need 35,000? I asked them, and they said, because the president tells us so. Well, this is interactive. Could you please show us the QR code? We don't have a lot of time. And there are two ways to do this. To continue further or to answer questions. Would like to talk to another point. Let's talk about people. No. I don't think this is possible. Let's give people the microphone. Can you go PhD_bot? Okay, we'll give people the microphone. That's it. So we are all adults. We can start looking down on the young people when people actually were full stacks, when we're writing on assembler, in assembler, and so on. And those youngsters, they have learned front end and they think they know everything, and so on and so forth.
Вот мы не то чтобы с этим прям как бы
там сзади плачут JavaScript-овые разработчики. Чувствуют себя обидно.
So there are some JavaScript developers who are kind of weeping in the backstage. Okay. If we don't educate our people, they will never be educated ourselves. And for example, tomorrow we will have an Olympiad here because some people like that from their school days, and it's an opportunity to learn something new. So we're trying to think of new formats to educate our people. Could you tell us, what do you do to do continuous life learning for your people? When you have 5 reports, you can actually talk to them personally, but what if you have 200? How do you make sure that your tech guys have a quantum leap? And do you want to discuss that in 10 minutes? Really? Well, Dennis actually wanted to go into that. Well, let's try.
Во-первых, я категорически не согласен с утверждениями, что люди стали хуже.
Well, I do disagree that people are worse than they were. I've been teaching since 2006, and every year my students become better and better because they know more and more things.
Олимпиадные задачки для 8 и 9 класса по программированию, уверяю вас, любой из вас сейчас поскрипит мозгами и будет решать минут по 30-40.
Any of you will take 30 to 40 minutes to solve Olympiad mathematics tasks from 8th and 9th forms. Generative models actually do them in several minutes, but you would take 30 to 40 minutes because you're old. 7 years ago, no one knew in the 4th year at university how to work with Git. Everybody knows now. I mean, bachelors 5 years ago did not know what CI/CD was. Now they know. I mean, everyone knows it. They code much better than we used to. Actually, what we used to learn at the university, now they learn at high school. Of course, linear mathematics, mathematical analysis, calculus, that's university environment, but engineers become better and better all the time. Why I teach, actually? Because I want to hunt good guys.
Есть ребята из ВК, там, которые делают технопарк.
There are some guys from VK. They have been investing millions in Technopark and Technosphere. Yandex actually
людей, сколько мне надо, получаю 15 тысяч рублей в месяц.
Invests millions of dollars. I get 15,000 rubles per month. I take any people who want I take any number of people who I want from my group. I take guys who are good at algorithmic tasks, and in each team I have onboarding, I have mentorship, and so on. And I think they can grow to middle plus from iOS developer, Android developer, backend, or admin. So we have this pretty stable education system. We have a little less than 1,000 people working for us.
Продукт с индивидуальным подходом.
So it's a great, high-quality product with individual approach. If you instill that as a culture in people, that you learn a lot, and if you actually do this PR to people, that if you know a lot of things, that's cool. What about you, Григорий?
Чьи-то ноу-хау, да, это в целом система обучения, в которой
Well, this system works for us too. Any big company invests in this. We have Yandex Lyceum, we have Yandex textbooks, we have shuttles, we have some short courses, and so on. So we have this system too.
учить и растить людей, мы в целом скорее научились, да, то есть я вот
So
тут скорее
we
соглашусь
are
с Женей,
pretty
что
good
не вижу прям
at
больших проблем.
teaching
А
people
вот
and
то,
growing people.
откуда
I don't see a
брать
big problem there.
достаточное количество людей, которые в целом нам нужны там не только там одной компании,
But
да, а в целом
how do
сектору,
we
да,
get
которых ты
a
дальше будешь
pool
учить и
of
расти.
good people, not just for one company, but for the entire
Да,
sector?
и может быть мы начнем писать что-то другое, да, отвлекшись от
And
разных
maybe,
платформ.
maybe when
вот,
we
как
distract
решать эту
ourselves from
историю, да,
platforms
как
and
казалось
such
бы,
like,
пока не очень
we will
ясно,
start
да, там
coding
есть
in a new way.
разные, усилия и меры,
But this is a
со
challenge.
стороны государства, но вот что
The government is doing something, we do something, but we don't know whether it works because we still need more people than the market can offer.
Я тут тоже, Жень, согласен, что люди точно не становятся хуже. Вот,
I do agree that people are not becoming worse.
Черт. Ну, я надеялся, что со мной будете не согласны. Если бы вы согласились, было бы скучно.
Well, that was a challenging question to you, and bingo, you all disagree. Good. We have good guys, great guys. They are strong, they are interested and motivated.
Тем, как это, стажеры, которые приходят в компанию, вот они прям готовы.
If you look at the guys who come on probation, they can work, they can plunge on, they grow all the time, better than middles who come from the market and actually they really want to stay middles for a year and then move companies again. So we prefer young people from out the university. And it's also important to me to grow people into managers, because managers who we grow, they are the foundation of a stable business. Because they own processes, they participate in developing the individual engineers. So I actually am more interested in management growth rather than in engineering growth, because I need a super stable management structure below me. If I have to sit in a round table, I at least know that my company will continue working without me for a while.
Денис, просьба, наверное, к тебе. Вот раз ты ходишь вот в эти вот кабинеты...
Well, since you go and sit in these round tables with the government officials, so my message to you, on the shortage of people and engineers and any people, I come to a large bank or a large retail company and they all have their own video conferencing system, their own CRM, their own messenger, and so on. When I ask them why, they say, hey, we have 10,000 engineers for a reason.
Процессинг, например, если там для банков важно процессинг.
For banks, processing is important, and they have their own processing, they have their own back office. But now they start writing all this soft without actually buying it from the market.
Каким-то образом
I think if we could tell all them, hey, let's not write 20 products that do the same thing. Let's have 2 or 3 products for the entire country. A lot of engineers would be freed up for the market and for the really important tasks. Because all those in-house vendors, they write a lot of software. They don't sell it on the market, but if they try to sell it on the market, we will crash the market. Well, not exactly crash the market, but VK will still stand. But, well, how many wheels have been reinvented within VK? A lot. We already have several messengers, but at least we have one mail. But I think this deficit in people could be covered by actually not writing the same code 20 times. I think it's very hard. It would be very hard to do in this competitive world. Well, we are not in a very competitive world right now. We have separated from the world ourselves. I don't think there is a kind of universal recipe for education and teaching. If you explain to a June or to a middle why they need to learn new things, If you explain to them, it's all easy.
Чувак, если ты будешь больше value приносить, у тебя будет больше зарплата.
For some people,
it's
really a new knowledge that if you bring more value, your salary will be higher. Not everyone kind of is aware of that. You just tell that to a person and say, oh yes. Some people, they want to be challenging. Some people, they want to challenge. They want always to be first, and this is why they want to learn. That's different. But people are different, and you have to steer their motivations, whatever they are. I'll have to be brief, I understand.
Чем стремительнее будет у нас рынок максимально таким честно конкурирующим,
the more honest competition will be on the market, the faster the losers will have to go, and the winners will make products which we will be proud of. And to me, this healthy market relationship is a very, very important thing. If you reinvent the wheel within the company, you need just to find one person you sell it to.
Преподавал. Было дело. Недолго, но...
I went to a doctorate. Well, I didn't get a doctorate, but
пришел, что
I was with university for a while, and actually I got this idea,
наш опыт, который
and this idea really corroborates that we are all slaves to our habits. The decisions we make year on year,
и очень большой уязвимостью.
It's a strength and a vulnerability at the same time, because we tend to solve problems on the basis of patterns that were successful in the past. And the present is changing. It is really changing very quickly. And again, it is very important to keep the balancing act when we work with this new fresh blood. We don't want to leave them hamstrung. We don't want to overload them with our experience. Of course, experience is good, experience that comes from the senior generation, but the reality is changing, and our experience may be maybe not good. We don't want to become a club of old farts. Okay?
Про то, что, я правда верю в то, что AI нас покорит.
I mean, I do believe in AI. I do believe in us getting astonished how much can be automated, and the world will change in automobiles, I think we will get to the right infrastructure. Of course, there is not enough infrastructure. Maybe it will take longer, but a lot of resources will be freed up. People who do something else today. Okay, we have run out of time, but we have several questions. I don't know how people could scan this QR code. And I think there is a great question right in context. Speakers have said, don't write your own code. But tell me something that you have refused to write. Well, I'm trying to refuse to write my own ML platform. Well, I'm not going to give you a direct answer. We don't want to write. We write for open source to make sure that we can develop everything that we have written already with someone else. ClickHouse, MOITB, MOI Thesaurus, Data Alliance, and documentation instruments. We have contributed all that to open source. Whatever we write, we try to open up. And this is how we move forward. We are also moving in the direction where we try to create platforms other people can use. I don't have a good answer for it. Theorists. Yeah. Well, we have actually eliminated 8 correlators. It is a very complex topic. I have a question to Grigorий. You say you contribute a lot. And I mean, engineering, serious technology.
Я так привык. Или YDB — это сложные технологии. Людям
or YDB, they are very complicated, and people can't contribute to them if they just come in from the code. Maybe I'm not right, but I don't think they can contribute in a good way. So what's the benefit?
Я просто, может, что-то не понимаю.
Maybe I don't understand something, but...
Какие-то более сложные, как ты правильно замечаешь. Есть вещи сильно попроще, типа там платформы для управления документацией.
We have some pretty straightforward technologies like Diplodoc.
Выложить в open source, а дальше разберись.
But when we contribute, we don't just contribute to open source and just leave it alone. You need to get prepared for this comments, documentation, and so on and so forth, how to deploy it, how to use it, how to run it, and so on. And I meant all this work that comes together with the contribution, because we want to assist people who are ready to use it, because they have the same problem. Of course, we don't expect us to contribute some heavy database, and there will be an outside contribution in the first year. But people will try to write their own specific features, and I think in year 2 or year 3 in SDK, there will be some contribution, and we will become richer.
К нам в компанию пришло несколько специалистов из Яндекса.
We had several guys coming from Yandex, and they are now sitting and contributing to that. So they are contributing from the outside. I actually looked at who contributes to ClickHouse, and they were all Yandexoids. So here and now, more than 50% of new code at ClickHouse, it's not just Yandexoids, it's non-Russian speakers. Most of them are Chinese. So ClickHouse, is it written by Chinese? Well, Chinese are good coders. Chinese are great coders.
Смотрите, есть еще два вопроса, они какие больше про
We have another two questions. They are mostly about IT. I don't know. I think that's one a broader question. Some companies contribute to open source in gigabytes very actively.
Предпосылки к тому, что, то есть, что вы делаете для того, чтобы этого не случилось? В частности, не только с кодом, а с персональными данными.
What do you do to prevent personal data from being leaked into GitHub?
Хорошо и все.
Да нет, тут начинается.
Do you have any specific approaches to that? Well, you always start with processes.
Постоянно уверяет меня, что eBay — это не набор конкретных мер, а это процесс. Вот, и
My cybersec guy always tells me that cybersec is not about measures, it's about processes. So you have to educate your people, you create pipelines, specific pipelines for secure code and unsecure code, and I think when the regulator comes in with the personal data protection law and talking about turnover-based fines and so on and so forth, so that's in a different conference. But it's going to be a great stimulus.
Аудиты безопасности 2 раза в год.
We regularly do security audits, pen tests. We try to hack into our own systems. We're trying to write secure code and so on.
Для того, чтобы это все получилось,
my overall point of view is that in order to make all that happen, there should be no conflict between development and security, but I think that's a topic for another hour.
Такой нестандартный ответ. Понятно, что вот это вот все, что ты говоришь, это то, что принято делать.
Well, that's what people do. But if you have any non-trivial answers,
не надо.
Говорят это на другой конференции.
Do I need to sell positive from you? Sell positive at a different conference.
На самом деле, я прям пару слов.
Just a couple of words.
Мы серьезно
It's a topic about us.
Безопасность это все время, считай. Мы
CyberSec is actually what we do. We started a bug bounty on our own infrastructure. Non-typical, non-trivial bug bounty. We identified mission-critical events. So if this happens, we're fucked. There are 4 such mission-critical events, and one of them is theft of our research reports. Contribution of malware into updated servers, and malware goes to our customers. So there are no such risks than, for example, we are exposed to ransomware and so on. But it will be a catastrophe if someone infects our customers through us. And we have a paradigm how to work with this. We started a bug bounty. It started with 10 million rubles, now it's 60 million rubles. If anyone can prove a hack, if you come from the street, if you can materialize inadmissible events, and if specific reports with sensitive information leaks, we pay money. And of course, we have to modernize the entire processes of how we work with this data from beginning to end and how we monitor this work in order not to pay this money.
И у нас прямо здесь с точки зрения подхода очень целеориентированная ИБ.
So I think our IB is target-oriented. It's not just an IB or CB, but very, very targeted. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for speaking. A round of applause, please.